Welcome back to the AI-enabled GTM. I'm very pleased to welcome back today Martin Lewis, acclaimed speaker and author. Martin is well known for being an international B2B go-to-market strategist. And with me, he's been a longtime partner and collaborator. We've worked on so many interesting things together, and it's been much appreciated. He's a passionate advocate for transforming B2B sales from an individual art to an organizational capability. And by the way, he's also author of How Customers Buy and Why They Don't. And the Amazon link, of course, will be in the description under this episode. So make sure you check that out. It is a must read if you're in GTM in any way. Welcome back, Martin.
Thanks, Stu, and it's a pleasure to be talking with you yet again, as we have done for many, many years. But now we have a
Right.
really interesting topic, I think.
We sure do. All right. So quick one out there just before we dive in. I know between Martin and I, we've got thousands of friends out there. This channel is really early in its growth. It's in its infancy and we need your help to grow it. So hit the subscribe button, like the video, share it. I'm sure you will like it. It's easy, free, and really helps us out. And if you have any thoughts, as we're talking about the subject today, agreements, disagreements, if you have an aha moment, please put them in the comments. We really appreciate that. So let's dive in. Martin, you've argued for years that sales needs to evolve from an individual art to an organizational science, as we said just a minute ago. Has AI finally made that possible?
I hope so. And I think so. As you said, Stu, I've been saying this for a very long time. The days of having individual salespeople out there doing whatever they think is the right thing to do to sell a particular product or service, I think is just crazy. Because basically you've got, like, let's say 20, 200, 2,000, 20,000 salespeople all out there essentially trying to work it out for themselves, using these mysterious sales skills to do whatever they do as salespeople to try and influence somebody to buy the product or service. I think that is just nuts. Now, one of the things that's really led me to that conclusion is the research we've done talking about to customers about how they buy. And we started this 25 years ago about looking at how do customers buy. And one of the epiphanies we had by talking to customers about how they buy is that within a particular market, customers buy in a remarkably similar way. Now, we actually define a market that way, a collection of customers that buy in a certain way. So therefore, if we think about this, if we're selling to a particular market, we're selling to people who will have the same concerns. They're going to do the same things. They're going to ask the same questions. They're going to have the same anxieties. They're going to have the same questions. So why on earth do we not prepare our salespeople to navigate through that maze? Because we know where it's going. We know where it's going. And yet, in most situations, we let every salesperson go out there and do it on their own. Now, AI, what is AI going to bring to the equation? AI, let's look at the buyer first. Always start with how customers are buying. Buyers are already buying very differently. With AI, we're already seeing the adoption of AI in the buying cycle is way greater than the adoption of AI in the selling cycle right today. When people are looking at buying something, no matter what it is, B2C, B2B, it can be $1 million product or service. It could be a $100 product or service. It doesn't matter. People are using AI tools now, sometimes without even knowing it. They're doing research. And
Right.
behind that
Right.
research is AI giving them information. Customers are far more informed today. They expect far more from a salesperson, even if they're going to interact with a salesperson. The salesperson has to add more value than ever before. So to answer your question, really, is AI going to enable it? It must. It already on the buy side is changing things. We have to use AI on the sell side.
Yeah, exactly correct. And it's interesting, as you said, without even knowing it, I find myself doing that. I'm on Amazon, I'm looking for something, and sure enough, the AI recommendations guide a lot of my thinking. So, as a B2B buyer, if, in the first wave when the internet happened, they might have been 50% of the way through their buying journey by the time they talked to us. Now, that number's a lot higher. So you mentioned before you believe that they've sort of are starting in the wrong place. So let's start with how are most organizations typically using AI today?
My gosh. Well, it's not a good scorecard. Now, I'm not going to make a sweeping statement and say nobody's doing it right because there's some great examples of how those organizations and companies are embracing AI. But in the majority of cases, I unfortunately do not see that. What I see is we're using AI technologies and tools to do a poor job quicker, faster, maybe cheaper. How many emails do I get? How many emails do you get nowadays? How many messages on LinkedIn do you get that are clearly being generated by AI? Now,
Right.
let's face it, those outreaches, those prospecting, those cold calls people were making us weren't that good to start with. So now we're doing a poor job faster. As a very good friend of mine who's VP of sales says, a fool with a tool is still a fool.
Uh,
So
that's a good one.
what we're doing is we're using AI to make it appear like we're doing more activity. So the quantity of activity may be going up, but what about the quality? And indeed, what we're doing is we're turning markets off. We're desensitizing people more and more. They don't want to see that. Then let's look at maybe how we're doing presentations. AI is being used so that salespeople can put together more custom, more pretty presentations. But if they're presenting the wrong thing to the wrong person at the wrong time, how's that going to help?
Yeah.
And it looks like AI is generated. Where's the authenticity going? We're forcing people to not talk to a salesperson. The salesperson is just going to be using AI to talk to you. Why talk to a
Why
salesperson?
bother?
Why bother indeed? So
Mhm.
what we see is in many, many cases, AI is being used to do poor things quicker. That is not what I think the future should be.
So where should it be? Where should organizations begin then? If it's not just to take your existing processes and throw AI at it, what should they do?
Well, we've kind of talked about, let's loop back through the conversation and talk about, like, first of all, let's have a strategy. We talk about how markets buy in a similar fashion. So the very first thing I would use with AI is to discover more about my market. Now, this is what we call the outside in approach. Too many organizations are inside out. They look at their product or service and they talk about what the value proposition should be, how they present it to the market. Stop all of that. Start looking at how customers buy.
Right.
So, what's the customer going to do? Where would a customer be in their world to then want our product or service? What are they going to think about? Who's going to get involved? How are they going to make decisions? What else are they going to look for? All of those things can be explored by AI. In fact, if you're watching this and you're responsible for selling something, try it right now. Well, actually, at the end of this, not right now, but at
Yeah,
the
not
end,
right now.
just ask ChatGPT or Claude or whatever you use. Ask it. If you're selling, let's just say for the sake of argument, lawnmowers, I don't know. Ask it, how do people buy lawnmowers? Not just that, but put in a greater prompt. If you have got a higher end lawnmower that maybe costs $1,500, describe it, say, who would be interested in this? Who is buying this? Who could buy this? Uh, what decisions would they make? What alternatives would they look at? What would be the reasons they would not buy? Just try that and that alone. And if that does not cause you to really rethink how you're going to market, I'd be very surprised. So start with the outside in view. Use
Right.
AI, understand the market to really understand who your ideal customer is, what their concerns are, who's going to get involved, what alternatives they're going to look at. Then we can start mapping out an organizational strategy. And here it is, going back to what we talked about earlier. We're not now releasing all our salespeople out into the market using whatever individual mystic and magic they may have. We're now providing them a map. Here's the ideal customer. Here's where they may be in their buying journey. Here's how we would start them thinking about this. Here's what we have to do. Here are the various roles that need to get involved in. Here are the objections they may have. Here are the alternatives they may consider. We can now provide a map through the maze of the buying journey to the salesperson. So the first thing I would do with AI is get my strategy together.
Got it.
Then once I've got the strategy, I can empower that with AI. I can use AI tools to monitor and manage each situation. We can look at what salespeople are doing, what information they're getting. We can look at where they are with a particular prospect. We can find out what's going on with that prospect. We can find out where they are in the buying journey. No guessing. We can use the analytics of AI to really determine. And then we can say, here is the next best thing we should be doing with that selling situation. And
Yeah, I
here are the
love it.
red flags. Here are the things that are most likely to stop or slow down that buying journey. And here's what we can do about it. Or this is hopeless. This is not somebody who's going to buy. You're better off investing your time elsewhere.
Elsewhere.
So to me, I would use AI first and foremost to get my selling strategy together and make sure I've got my sales force equipped, enabled to execute on that strategy. And then I'd be using AI as, and I don't know whether I like the term or not, as the co-pilot. as the person that is sitting beside the salesperson, guiding them,
Yes.
taking away all the guessing, the subjectivity, making objective. Okay, we have seen this pattern before. This is what we should be doing. This is how we should help this customer through their buying journey. So that's where I'd be putting my money.
Yeah, and I love it. I think the thing that really jumped out at me is when you said, "No guessing." Right? I mean, you see that so much in sales. It's a guessing or I might even say assuming. And then, you go into your forecast review meeting and what you do is you tell a story about all the assumptions that you're making and they may not at all be true.
Yep.
So
Yep.
that was an aha moment for me. I'll leave it in the comments. Um, when we last spoke, and I love this. I thought it was brilliant. You used a Formula One analogy. Tell me, yeah, I know we're both Formula One fans, but if you're out there and you're not watching Formula One yet, go watch Formula One. It's an amazing sport. But anyway, what's that analogy, Martin? What's that all
Yeah,
about?
Drive to Survive has altered Formula One significantly. A lot
Yes,
more people are now watching Formula One.
right.
It's very interesting. I've been watching Formula One for a very long time, not from its start, but let's go back to the start of Formula One back in the 30s. And the rules were very simple that you're a driver and you actually have to take your mechanic, your one mechanic with you in the
With
car,
you.
along with one or two spare wheels. And the idea is, and let's look at, imagine we're in a Bugatti in 1933 or whatever. We have a steering wheel, we have an oil pressure gauge, we have a speedometer, and that's about it. Oh, we have a water temperature gauge. That's it. So we've got a nice ornate dash in front of us with maybe two or three dials and a big steering wheel.
Big steering
And
wheel.
as we're going along as fast as we possibly can, like this, leaning this way and leaning that way, with your mechanic doing the same thing, you have a puncture. So you pull over to the side of the road and you jack the car up and you take the wheel off, and about 10 minutes later, you get back in the race. So you had to take your mechanic with you to handle those situations. So each driver had their own style. Each driver had a vastly different kind of cars, engineers, setups, and whatever. It was great. Today, let's fast forward to today. If you haven't anticipated where I'm going, today, if you look at the Red Bull or a modern F1 car, you've got a steering wheel that's about this big, and on that you've got 26 to 30 or so switches. You've got dials. You've got an LCD screen, and yes, you're still the driver in the cockpit. And the idea is to be the fastest driver to get to the end of the race. So you are still a driver. You are still one of the best drivers in the world. But what you're doing today to compare to those old days is so different. When you're driving, you have a team of about 50 people in the pit
Yeah.
monitoring everything. Back in the factory, real time, you've got maybe 200 people or more monitoring everything that's going on in that race. There's meteorologists looking at the weather. There's people watching the other teams to get data from them about how a new tire is behaving on the track. There are simulations going on all the time, second to second. The driver is there supported by all that information, all those folk. The driver is still the driver, but the driver is now getting information about, hey, it's time to come in and change the tires. For those that have seen Formula One, you sometimes hear the driver going, what? No, I'm okay. But they know that the intelligence, the data, and the analytics are far faster and are looking at far more things than they are. And it's time to go and change the tires. So they come into the pits, they change the tires. And for those of you that are not familiar, a tire change now, when they come into the pits, they change all four wheels. They will often wipe the visor of the driver and maybe even adjust the angle of the front wing in under 2 seconds.
Yeah. Crazy.
That is only possible with technology. So the point of the story is you are still the driver. The salesperson is still the salesperson out there in front. It still calls for fantastic driving skills. But today's drivers are the drivers that can drive with analytics. They can drive with the team. They know how to work with the team. They know how to use all that data to shave off 1 or 2 thousandths of a second per lap.
Yep.
And I'm
Yep.
going to maintain that is the future of sales. That sales, we cannot go on as an individual art form. That is no longer the case. That's how we used to drive cars in the 1930s. We're now in a different kind of race altogether. So the future salespeople, they're still going to be great salespeople, but they're going to be salespeople that can work with those tools and those teams.
Yeah, exactly correct. You take a driver from the 1930s and you put him in a 2026 car and it just they
Yeah.
wouldn't even know what it's all for,
Yeah.
right?
And I
So
think
yeah,
we're going to see that in sales. I hope we do. And not for one moment. Just the driver is still a superb driver, but they're different types of driver. We're
different
still
type.
going to see great salespeople, but they're going to be different kinds of salespeople.
Yep, exactly. Exactly. The skills are different. It pays more to be a mechanical engineer now, right? Than it does anything else if you're a driver. All right. So where do you see the biggest practical opportunities for AI's use in go to market today?
For sure, as we said a little earlier, I would always start with a strategy, understanding the marketplace, putting the sales strategy together, ensuring that people are aware of the sales strategy. As I said, it's like giving them a roadmap of how to go through the maze. Drawing back to Formula One, teams aren't just going out and hitting a track now. The driver has been well prepared. They go
Yep.
in simulators before they go on the track. And again, they're not just trying to work it out for themselves. The simulators and the data analytics have worked it out. So I'd be ensuring that I've got my salespeople supported in that way, that they know what they're doing. They know the
Right
ideal
on.
profile. They know whose door to knock on, metaphorically or literally. They know what's behind that door, metaphorically. They know what kind of concerns that person should have. They know what kind of objections they may have. They know what kind of value propositions to put. So I would be using AI to get my strategy together, to enable the Salesforce, and then to work with the Salesforce moment to moment, just like in Formula One, to say, hey, this is what's happening. This is a good opportunity. Here's what we need to do. Here's where we need to go. It will make things much sharper.
Yep.
Things will happen much quicker. Things will happen like salespeople. The day of the 1 hour sales call, which I was familiar with when I was selling, that you prepare, you go on a 1 hour sales call,
Yep.
you kind of follow up, and a few weeks later you may make another 1 hour sales call. Those are already over. Customers don't have an hour for you.
No, I
The
don't.
selling cadence is now an always on, using text, using collaboration forums, using email maybe, you're using multiple modes of communication all the time with your customers. So things happen faster, there's a higher frequency, and I've got to use AI to enable all of that to happen. It can no longer be just kind of notes in my day timer.
Yeah, two big takeaways for me, right? It's the AI analytics, that's a big part of it, but it's also that supporting team, being able to use all of those analytics to be able to help the driver, help the salesperson, right, understand where they are and what to do. It's great. All right, so let's talk about the other side with the obstacles. Let's finish off with that. What are the biggest obstacles that organizations face in trying to implement all this today?
Well, you're hitting me with another hot button here. um,
Good.
the biggest obstacle is no longer the technology. The biggest obstacle
Uh,
is a human factor that we have total control over. You'd think we have total control over, but our brains take us another way. I would say change, conviction, commitment are the big ones. When we're doing
yeah.
something like this, we are changing what we've done, perhaps as far as we're concerned, forever. We're making changes that seem to be very large changes in how we do things. That we've got our top sales performers and they say, hey, this is great, but this is how I do it. And I've always done it this way. And we've got thousands of excuses for not doing this. So change, in my mind, is the biggest hurdle. So we've got to have courage and conviction that yes, this is the way that we're going to move forward. And of course, I'm not just saying like we burn all the bridges and we just kind of get on with this. Yeah, we can do kind of early adopters. We can try things, and in fact, we should try things. And then once we see that something's working, expand on that massively. But what we see with company after company is a concern with we're changing things. Maybe we're changing things too quickly, too much, or whatever. So I really encourage people do those early adopters, try things out, and then when they work, really scale them and don't let the usual obstacles get in the way that people fear change.
Love it. Absolutely love it. So let's finish it off last minute here with just any final advice for the people out there today you might want to share.
Well, it's interesting. I'm going to kind of summarize what we've talked about. It's so tempting to use AI just to give AI tools to the people and let them do things. That's good. And as I'm saying, I'm encouraging experimentation, early adopters, but don't go down the path of the fool with the tool. Not
Hmm.
wishing to insult anybody here, but just doing what you're doing quicker, cheaper, faster. And I am seeing a lot of that at the moment. People using AI to do things that really haven't been engineered. So we're
Yes.
trying to do something. Yes, we're doing more prospecting on LinkedIn. We're sending out more emails. We're doing presentations. We're shaving off. Maybe a salesperson would take a day to do a presentation. They can now do it in 30 minutes. Don't go down that path. Go down the path of rethinking. What is
Yep.
it we're trying to do? And
Yep.
rethink. Look at what we're doing. Look at what we should be doing. So that's kind of the advice. And then, yes, do the early doctors, do the trials, but make sure they're doing what you want to happen, that they're logically moving the ball forward.
As always, thank you. Absolutely insightful, fascinating, brilliant. And don't forget, down in the D- down in the description, you'll find the link, the Amazon link, 5 stars. Definitely worth the read. So thank you, Martin. This was fascinating. And to all of you watching it there again, I'm just going to say it one more time. Don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe to the channel. Comment, share. It really helps us out. And I do greatly appreciate it. If you'd like to be on a guest on the show, just reach out to me directly on LinkedIn. That link is down in the description as well. So thank you for being here today. And until next time, be safe, be well, and know that you are appreciated.